I used to think that winning an argument was about having the sharpest words, the most logical points, and the loudest voice in the room. I believed that if I could just explain myself well enough, people would understand me and agree with me. But the truth, the more I tried to convince, the more resistance I felt. Until one day, I discovered something that completely flipped my perspective. Silence. Not the awkward, uncomfortable kind. I'm talking about intentional, deliberate silence. The kind that can disarm anger, command respect, and make your presence impossible to ignore. You've probably been in a heated conversation where your heart was pounding, your mind racing, and you felt the urge to respond instantly. That's the trap. Most people fill every gap in a conversation because they're afraid of what silence might mean. But here's the secret. Silence is not emptiness. It's a space charged with power. It's the pause that makes the other person lean in, the gap that forces them to reflect, the moment that shifts the balance of control from them to you. I learned this the hard way. Years ago, I was in a meeting where a colleague openly challenged my idea in front of everyone. My instinct was to defend myself immediately, to prove I was right, but something in me, maybe exhaustion, maybe intuition, made me stop. I just looked at him, calm, steady, and said nothing. The room went quiet. He started talking again, but this time his voice wavered. He began to explain himself, to soften his tone, and in that moment I realized I hadn't lost the argument. I had won it without saying a word. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to use silence as your most powerful tool in communication. If you stay until the end, you'll understand why silence can be more persuasive than any argument, and how to apply it in conversations, negotiations, and even conflicts, so that people listen to you, respect you, and remember you. Silence, when used intentionally, has three main powers: presence, control, and influence. These are like the three pillars of charisma we talked about before, but here they work in a way that's almost invisible. You won't be waving your hands, raising your voice, or trying to dominate the conversation. Instead, you'll be creating a space that pulls people toward you. Let's start with presence. Imagine you're talking to someone who's constantly checking their phone, glancing around, or interrupting you. How does it feel? You sense they're not really there. Now imagine the opposite. Someone who looks at you, listens, and doesn't rush to fill every pause. That stillness makes you feel seen. That's presence. And silence is the fastest way to create it. When you stop talking, you give the other person the gift of your full attention. You're not just hearing their words. You're absorbing their tone, their body language, the emotions behind what they're saying. And they feel it. They feel that you're not just waiting for your turn to speak. You're there, with them, in that moment. That's rare. And because it's rare, it's magnetic. But presence alone isn't enough. The second power of silence is control. In any conversation, there's an invisible rhythm, a back and forth exchange. Most people are desperate to keep that rhythm going, afraid of letting it break. But when you can hold a pause without flinching, you take control of that rhythm. You decide when the next beat drops, and that makes people follow your lead. Think about it. In negotiations, the person who speaks first after a pause often loses ground. Why? Because silence creates pressure. It makes the other person reveal more than they intended, offer more than they planned, or soften their stance just to break the tension. If you can sit in that tension comfortably, you're already ahead. The third power is influence. Silence makes your words heavier. If you talk non-stop, your sentences blur together. But if you speak, then pause. Your words echo in the other person's mind. They replay them, think about them, and often they convince themselves of your point without you having to push. That's influence without force. Now let's talk about how to actually use silence in real life. Because knowing it's powerful is one thing, but applying it without making things awkward is another. The first step is to be comfortable with pauses. Most people panic when a conversation goes quiet. They laugh nervously, change the subject, or start talking just to fill the air. You're going to do the opposite. You're going to breathe, relax your shoulders, and let the pause live. This alone will make you stand out. Picture this. You're in a disagreement with someone. They've just made a point you don't agree with. Instead of jumping in, you take a slow breath, look at them, and say nothing. You're not glaring, you're not smirking, or you're simply present. That pause will make them question their own words. They might even start justifying themselves without you asking. That's the silence doing the work for you. The second way to use silence is in storytelling and persuasion. When you're making a point, don't rush through it. Deliver your key sentence, then stop. Let it hang in the air. Watch as the other person processes it. This is especially powerful in presentations or speeches. The pause becomes a spotlight on your words. Third, use silence as a mirror. People reveal more when they feel a gap that needs to be filled. In interviews, negotiations, or even casual conversations, if you simply nod and stay quiet after someone speaks, they'll often keep talking, and that's when the truth comes out. Journalists use this trick all the time. You can too. But here's the thing. Silence only works if your body language matches it. If you're fidgeting, looking away, or crossing your arms defensively, the silence will feel cold or hostile. Instead, keep your posture open, your gaze steady, and your expression neutral or warm. You want the silence to feel intentional, not accidental. Let's connect this to control again. In a heated moment, silence can be like pulling the emergency brake. It stops the momentum of the other person's argument. It forces a reset, but you have to own it. If you look uncomfortable, they'll sense weakness. If you look calm, they'll sense strength. One of the most powerful uses of silence is in conflict de-escalation. When someone is angry, they expect you to push back. If you simply listen and let them vent without interruption, their anger often burns out faster. They run out of steam, and when they do, they're more open to hearing your side. Silence also works in building attraction and respect. Think about the most charismatic people you've met. They don't rush to speak. They take their time. They let others come to them. That's because silence creates mystery. It makes people wonder what you're thinking. And curiosity is a powerful magnet. But, and this is important, silence is not about manipulation. It's about creating space. Space for the other person to feel heard. Space for you to choose your words carefully. Space for the conversation to breathe. When you use it with genuine presence and warmth, it becomes a tool for connection, not control. Here's a simple exercise. Today, in your next conversation, count to 3 in your head before responding. Just 3 seconds. You'll be amazed at how much more you notice. The shift in their tone, the flicker in their eyes, the way they lean in. That's the power you've been giving away without realizing it. Let's move to the third pillar. Influence. This is where silence stops being just a tool and becomes a signature. Influence isn't about forcing someone to agree with you. It's about planting a thought so deeply that they believe it's their own. And silence is the soil where that thought takes root. When you pause after a statement, you give it room to echo in their mind. They replay it, they feel it, and often they convince themselves without you having to push. Imagine you're in a negotiation. You make your offer, then stop. No justifications, no nervous chatter, just stillness. The other person will feel the weight of your words. They might fidget, glance away, or try to fill the space. And in doing so, they often reveal exactly what you need to close the deal in your favor. Or think about a personal conversation, maybe with a friend who's hurt you. You tell them calmly, "That really disappointed me." Then you stop. You don't soften it with a joke, you don't rush to explain. You let the silence carry the weight of your honesty. That's when the truth lands. That's when change happens. But here's the advanced part. Silence works best when it's paired with listening energy. This means you're not just quiet, you're actively absorbing. Your eyes are steady, your body is open, your breathing is calm. You're not waiting for your turn to speak, you're giving them the stage. And paradoxically, that makes you the most powerful person in the room. There's also the anticipation effect. When people know you don't speak unless you have something worth saying, they start paying more attention when you do. Your words become events, and the pauses between them, that's where your influence grows. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Won't people think I'm shy or unsure if I stay quiet? The answer is no, not if your silence is intentional. The difference between awkward silence and powerful silence is confidence. If you own the pause, it becomes a statement in itself. Here's a challenge for you. In your next important conversation, consciously use 3 moments of silence. 1 before you speak, 1 after you make a key point, and 1 when the other person finishes talking. Watch how the dynamic shifts. Watch how they lean in. Watch how your presence expands without you saying a word. Remember, silence is not the absence of communication. It's a form of communication. It says, "I'm not desperate to be heard. I'm here. I'm grounded. And I choose my words with care." That's rare. And in a world where everyone is shouting to be noticed, rarity is power. If you master this, you'll notice something strange. People will start respecting you more, even if they can't explain why. They'll feel calmer around you. They'll open up more. They'll remember your words. Not because you said a lot, but because you said just enough. So here's my final thought. The next time you feel the urge to argue, to defend, to fill the air with words, don't. Breathe. Hold the space. Let the silence do the heavy lifting. You'll be surprised at how much louder you can be without making a sound. If this message spoke to you, subscribe now and comment, "Silence is power," so I know you're part of this. Leave a like to spread the lesson, and click the next video on the screen. It's your next step.